Aaron David Miller is a former Mideast peace negotiator. He knows the region as well as anyone. He joins me now. You've seen him on with Chris for the last couple of weeks, helping us all understand this night after night. Aaron, what does this release mean to you? Again, I mean, obviously they said humanitarian. I don't think anyone buys that. What do you think they're up to behind the scenes?
Well, first of all, on a personal level, we're in a long, long, dark tunnel, and this is the first ray of light that we've seen. Look, we're speculating about Hamas's motives. If I were to speculate, I would say it's a combination of pressure and propaganda. The Qataris, obviously coordinating with the United States, played a key role in this mediation effort. The external leadership of Hamas is based in Doha, and the Qataris have financed Hamas on a monthly basis with Israeli acquiescence in order to preserve stability in Gaza. One of the reasons I think the Israelis were led off track by this is that they were absolutely persuaded that Hamas was more interested in stability in Gaza rather than this sort of operation. So when the Qataris talk, Hamas has no alternative but to listen. Whether they'll comply is another matter. But I think they're under tremendous pressure from the Egyptians, the Turks, any of the key Arab states, international actors that have influence with Hamas or even lines of communication are pressing it. So I think that was the catalyst for this. What they've done, however, is to make a virtue out of a necessity. They basically have used the hostages and will continue to use them as propaganda ploys. Humanitarian statement from an organization that engaged in incredibly vicious brutality and savagery for a full 24 hours. It's a propaganda exercise gained to relieve some of their pressure and to give their constituents justification and excuse to argue, well, you see, Hamas is really not the, quote, fascist administration that President Biden accused it of. So I think that's part of it. It's also psychological torture. We don't know how many.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was thinking about the psychological torture, sorry to interrupt you, of the other families. I mean, because this gives them so much hope. And then you look at Hamas and what they do, and it's hard to imagine that they're really going, I mean, I hope they do with all my heart, but it's hard to imagine that they're really going to release that many hostages.
Well, remember, the vast majority of hostages are not Americans. And I think for any of the survivors of the Nazi Holocaust, this selection process, making a distinction between Americans and Israelis, is something that was practiced on another level by the Nazis when they chose and decided who would live and who would not. The same practice was perpetrated by the PFLP during the Entebbe raid in 1976, where they separated the Jews from the other Air France passengers. So I think in that sense, it's an additional level of cruelty. Whether or not this presages the time and space for additional releases is unclear to me. There was an intriguing statement tonight issued by a Hamas spokesman in which they said that we're prepared to, I think the language was, close out the other civilian hostages cases if the security conditions warrant. And I suspect that was some acknowledgement about preempting an Israeli strike and providing additional time and space for some sort of negotiation. So there's just so much about this that we don't know. And I think speculation is fine, but it's very difficult to understand, I think, what's really driving this.
Yeah, and it seems like it puts Israel in a tough position now because all of these family members have so much hope now. And, you know, what are they supposed, I mean, do they need to back off a little bit and see if they're going to release more, or do they just continue on with their plan?
There are any number of reports, I don't know what they're sourced to, that the administration, the Biden administration, and other governments, probably Western European governments, reportedly are pressing the Israelis to agree to additional time and space before this ground campaign is launched in an effort to create an opportunity for additional releases. Now, that's either based on ongoing negotiations or it's a preemptive way to at least see if, in fact, in the days to come, other releases are not possible. But I think it's a game of manipulation. Yeah, game of
Yeah, it
manipulation.
certainly seems like that. And again, and you mentioned it, I mean, psychological torture for these families, which is what I keep thinking about. Aaron David Miller, thanks so much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of News Nation's fact-driven coverage.